People on the autism spectrum love anime. One of the reasons I really think they love anime is that autism affects the emotional circuits of our brain in a very profound way. So it affects social circuits in our brain and it affects emotional circuits in our brain. Anime tends to have a hyperactive, elevated signal of emotion, and it helps them feel. You are doing what a hungry person does when they eat. You are discovering that there's some environmental stimuli that are bringing out these emotions that you don't know how to bring out in other ways, but they absolutely need to get out. So there's all kinds of benefits to getting your emotions outside of you. And I think what you've discovered, like many people who are on the spectrum, is that I need a particular kind of emotional trigger to help me get that stuff out.
My wife sent me that because I always talk about how I watched an anime and cried. She's never seen me cry. So why are these cartoons making me cry? First off, I don't have autism. But also, in case anyone wanted some advice, I wanted to talk about 10 anime to watch that made me cry, and maybe will make you cry too. It feels very good to cry. They're not making me cry because I'm sad. They're making me cry because usually someone overcomes something difficult, or there's just this beautiful moment that is almost unexplainable. And I wanna talk about those anime on the way home from work because traffic is terrible and it's about a 30-minute drive, and I wanna do something that felt somewhat productive on the way home. Number one, a show I would recommend to everyone is Ping Pong the Animation. It's amazing. The art style is super weird, but it just adds to the brilliance of the show itself. But it's about two friends. One friend got his community by being a part of ping pong. His friend got him into it, and now he has like this community. He was also unbelievably naturally talented at it. They were both very good at it, but what happens when the one kid who's maybe not super into it actually gets really good at it, and then the friend starts feeling maybe a little insecure who got his friend into it, and he's starting to lose matches, and he's like, what the heck? I thought I was supposed to be the best at this. Why am I not good at this? And it's a conversation between those two, their relationship with that, also challenging someone who's all in. Like there's all these side characters kind of that are also just like way passionate, and everyone has their unique story. And you sort of realize, like, people who get really good at sports, there's not just one way to be really good and amazing at something. A lot of times people arrive to that position with their own mental demons and their own mental battles, and the show is about how people overcome those demons as they're going along. The ending is extremely cathartic, and I think that's the thing with sad anime. I myself am not a fan of sad anime at all. I don't want some terrible backstory. I don't get sad when an anime is trying to be sad. I only get emotional and I start crying when someone overcomes something, and that to me is a beautiful, beautiful feeling. And anime definitely, at least for me, is an emotional trigger. It's something that gets the emotions out as someone who maybe didn't grow up expressing a lot of emotions, and it's just not natural for me, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but anime is that amazing trigger. Boom, boom. Ping Pong the Animation, check it out. Anime number 2, Mob Psycho. Mob Psycho, I think, was just voted recently as the best anime of all time, which is pretty wild. It's beautiful, incredible show. It's about a young psychic kid who has this, ability that pretty much no one has. He's like all powerful, but it doesn't really help him do the things he wants in life. Like he has this initial desire to get this girl to admire him, and she doesn't care about his power. So he goes through the difficult journey that everyone has to go through, getting good at other things, but everybody else is like, well, why don't you just do the thing that you're super powered at? Stop caring about this other stuff that you want and just focus on being the best. Being the best is what everyone else wants. And he's like, no. So it's sort of the journey with that, and maybe even just explaining that, you can see how there's sort of an emotional element to it. But I would say what's funny is, for anyone who's watched the show, the Body Improvement Club, which is a club he joins, it's a fitness club, so it's all these bros who are all like, you got this, yeah! They make me emotional. Like pretty much any scene with them really chokes me up. But in the second season, there's a scene, or literally thinking about it makes me feel emotional, where the club basically talks about how, kind of a spoiler, not really, but they talk about how inspirational Mob is, pushing through something he's not naturally gifted at and getting good at it and seeing improvement. And they basically go out of their way to help him. And it's just this really, really, really wholesome and wild moment. So Mob Psycho. Number 3, I don't even need to harp on for very long, because if you've watched it, you understand. My Hero Academia. It's just an emotional show. I love it. I know it's really, really popular, so people are like, basic. That's totally fine. I would actually recommend the show to a lot of people, especially an American audience, because it's based on superheroes. So like, it's easy to get into it because you're basically like X-Men, but anime, and then you get into it, and then just the way they're able to pull the emotions. I mean, that is what I would say is the specialty of the show. Incredible. And I've cried like I should do a separate video called 10 times I cried watching My Hero Academia, because so much. I think the last 5 or 6 episodes of the entire series, super emotional. But I mean, it's the epitome of people overcoming their own insecurities and what they see as flaws to do something heroic and amazing and to sacrifice for others, which is like always a really wholesome thing. Number 4 is Anohana. It's the only anime I've ever watched the whole thing in one day. I just was having like this terrible day. I was like, I'm gonna binge this series. So again, Anohana is one I heard beforehand that was like, dude, it's so sad. Okay, the premise is sad, but what makes you cry is the opposite. It's very, very cathartic. Like I'm not gonna spoil anything, but luckily it wraps up in this in a way where you don't feel like you wasted your time watching the whole thing, which is always a great thing with anime. But it's about the concept, when I think about it, it's actually such a interesting idea. It's very sad, but it's a group of friends who were kids. There was an accident when they were out by the lake and one of the friends dies. Terrible. But the whole show is about the relationship that the friends have with each other after going through a trauma together, how they grow up individually based on that trauma, and like what they kind of have to go through to overcome it. But also what is an interesting side bit is the main character continues to see the girl who dies. Like, so she basically follows him around like a ghost for the entire show. I know it almost sounds like creepy and super sad or whatever, but it's not. Like, it's this very like, it feels very relatable. Like, it feels like when you're growing up and you start separating from friends who are like your absolute best friends, and then like you get into a conversation, you're like, whoa, we're so different, but you still feel connected, obviously, because you had your childhood together. It's a lot of that. But again, it pays off. Like, it is not sad for sad's sake. I would say the ending that people tell me was sad was actually the opposite. Super, super, like, it's a happy, it's wholesome. It's good. I like it. Number 5 is Haikyuu. Now, what's kind of funny is Haikyuu, the show, has probably made me tear up a bit. I remember it was the first sports anime I watched, and I couldn't believe there was like a few episodes in, there was just a moment where someone overcomes like an insecurity he had, and he, did a really good volleyball move. And I was like, whoa, why am I like feeling kind of choked up? Like I'm having trouble like not tearing up right now. The rest of the show is like that personified. It's just people who have these problems, and then like sometimes they'll save it for 7 seasons, and then like by the 4th or 5th season, one of the main characters kind of overcomes so many demons and battles he's doing, and you see this moment of like delight in him, essentially. And I will watch people react to that scene because they'll cry, and that makes me cry. So I'm like layers into this where I will literally cry at people's crying reactions. But Haikyuu's amazing for that. It's very, very motivational. It super pumps you up. So if you're just trying to like get it in life and be inspired to like go out there and move and work, and like if you're trying to get into like working out or fitness as well, which is something I've been really into the last couple of years, like Haikyuu is one of those shows that kind of get you in the mood to be like physically ept, or the opposite of inept. Is that a thing? I don't even know. Number 6 might seem kind of cheesy, but Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer is the most popular anime manga of, I think, all time. I think the manga is the best-selling comic series of all time. It's the epitome of shonen. So every trope that you see in any of the old shows like Dragon Ball Z and One Piece and Naruto, and I don't mention those shows because I actually think those shows are really hard pitches for new people because they're really long and there's a ton of filler. So people feel like they're wasting a lot of time watching those shows. And then shows like Demon Slayer come along where they're kind of like, we're gonna cut 90% of all this and just kind of have like the big impact moments. And it works. Like, you think it wouldn't work, but it's hyper emotional seeing people overcome. But I would say the unique thing about Demon Slayer is the amount of empathy that the main character has for villains and for everyone. And I would say he's had moments himself where he's so like loving and caring and willing to understand what the other people think and say, no matter how like atrocious they are. That makes me emotional because that's just the way I want to be as well. Like, I never, ever, ever want to have someone be like, I believe in this, and I don't like people who believe in things you believe in. And for me to go, well, I don't like you then. Like, I never want to be that person. I want someone to tell me the craziest thing that someone did. Oh, this person is like really horrible because he did this. And for me to go, I wonder why I did that. Like, okay, well, how can I relate? Like, I always want to be the person who says, how can I relate to every single bad thing? And I feel like Demon Slayer like motivates me in that way. And what's kind of cool about anime and fiction in general is these characters are drawn or created as exaggerations of the normal human condition. But I actually think they're examples that we can follow. Like, I actually think we do have the ability to become personally a lot of these anime characters that we look up to. Obviously, flying and those things are still kind of difficult for me. I'm okay at them, but trying to be kind and empathetic all around and having no enemies, a Vinland Saga spoiler, I think that's the way to be. Number 7, I'm just gonna get out of the way because it's really silly. This was gonna be the last one and people would have been like, eye roll. Okay, Dragon Ball Z, but the actual show itself, I actually don't think made me cry. I think Dragon Ball Z introduced the concept of like super hard work leading to this huge payoff. But what's funny is the part of Dragon Ball Z that actually made me cry was an AMV someone made. So somebody did like a music video version of Vegeta versus Majin Buu. Vegeta is this character that I think most people can relate to in the show more than the main character, who's like, Goku is the main character, and he's like this very like, yay, I love to fight, yeah. Vegeta is like the side character that basically faces disappointment after disappointment. So he's like human condition personified of just like life can be kind of disappointing, and you can have this idea as a kid that you're gonna become this incredible version that you're like imagining of yourself, and then things start slowly kind of like falling to the side. And that's pretty much Vegeta's entire arc of the show. And then it's like, well, what happens if that pushes you to the brink and you have the opportunity to kind of obtain that, but at the cost of everything, right? Like a good example would be like a father who leaves his entire family to, you know, like live somewhere where he's gonna vacation for the next 6 years because he was like, I was never meant to be a father who has to take care of a family. Like that's kind of the simile that I would say with Vegeta, where he gets like this insane power and it's at a huge cost. It's basically at the cost of like loved ones. And it's like, are you willing to do that? And I don't know, his journey was really whatever. So this music video is kind of like his redemption moment, and oh my gosh, it makes me cry every single time. But if you want to look up like Majin Buu, Vegeta, AMV or whatever, it's like just this insane epic moment, and makes me cry every single time. I think the top comment is literally something like, women have the Notebook, men have Vegeta, or something like that. I don't know. I think the Notebook made me cry too though. We're on the last 3, the big 3, as they say. One Piece fan letter. Okay, One Piece has been a little hard for me to get into, I'll be honest. I've watched like maybe 150 or something episodes. I'm still not hooked, but I understand that it only gets better. It's been really hard for me to stick with One Piece. It feels really old, which is perfectly fine, but it's just not really moving along right now. Like I'm even past some parts where people are like, that's when the show gets good. And I'm like, okay, I've seen scenes in the future where it's good. This is like, you know, I'm still kind of getting there, so I'm having trouble. But One Piece fan letter, that made me cry. And not just that, watching reactions to One Piece fan letter made me cry more. So if you want not just the anime to trigger your emotions, watch someone else feel emotional watching the anime, that's what really triggers the emotions. But the concept of One Piece fan letter is amazing because it's essentially like, what's the perspective of people who live in the world of this One Piece crew? Like, these people are way overpowered. And it's really interesting because when you follow the main crew of a show, they become the norm. You're like, okay, these guys are really powerful. They have to face these big guys and, you know, whatever. But then you see like a normal human in the world in comparison to these big monsters. And then all of a sudden now they just seem like tanks. They seem like superheroes and monsters. And you're like, oh yeah, true. Like, if a human could do what they could do, they would clearly just be like superheroes. They would be like Thor or the Hulk. Oh, that makes sense. So you get the perspective of someone in it, but it just follows their journey in trying to deliver a handwritten note to one of the Straw Hat crew, which is like the main crew. She's just really inspired by one of them. She wants to write a note to them. And the journey she has to go through basically just to deliver the message of how inspirational they are to her, One Piece fan letter. Oh my gosh, man, it hits all the emotions. The music's so good. What she has to overcome, and there's like 2 or 3 adjacent stories to people overcoming while you're also like seeing the main crew like subtly in the background. It's so fun. But One Piece fan letter I would recommend to everyone. You'll see what I mean. The last 2, Attack on Titan, I don't think there's any big deal there. Music's insane, like super orchestral, wild music. That's where I feel like they knocked it out of the park even harder. But it's just a big story with big feelings and big emotions. And if you haven't heard of it, it's like one of the best stories ever told. And there's like a meme where it's like, I can't believe people are gonna go their whole lives without knowing the Attack on Titan story. Like that, it's like when people say story, that's what they're talking about. It's like this insane movie. But I guess for some context, it's about people who live in this small town contained in these walls, but if you venture out of the walls, you get eaten by titans. So you have to build the weapons to fight Titans. You have to see if there's anything else out there, and maybe there is. Maybe there's, you know, different animals we haven't seen, or different, you know, whatever. Like that's a big part of the show. So you're watching people trained to be good enough to fight Titans while also exploring a world that hasn't been, it's just so fun, that hasn't been explored, but it's brutal. I mean, these are Titans that eat people. So like clearly, you know, that a lot of things go wrong very consistently, and it's very dark, but you kind of like get aligned right away. Like you know what you're in for. And I don't even like gory stuff or scary stuff, but I would say that it's definitely gory and scary. And you kind of just get used to it. Like in the first episode, you're like, oh my God, I need to know what happens. And I understand that in this world, the context, it's not just brutal for brutal's sake. It's like, nah, this is what would happen. And oh my God, so good. And then I saved this one for last because I feel like this one is probably the most random, but it's Kotaro Lives Alone. It's about, I think, like a 4-year-old that lives in an apartment complex by himself. And it's supposed to be really quirky. You're like, why does this little kid live alone? But you know, it's strange to the world even around him. Like his neighbor's an adult who's like a manga artist, and he walks in like, what are you doing? Why are you living alone? And he's like, well, and like and he's like really silly and quirky, and it's fun. But then you kind of learn like, okay, well, clearly there has to be a bunch of weird stuff that has to align for this kid to be living alone in this place. So you start learning about his family life. So I will say, like, out of all the shows, Kotaro Lives Alone, definitely sad. It is sad. But the things that made me cry are the wholesome moments of like him meeting his neighbors, getting to know people who are like on pretty much any scale, like not the best people, but like how you don't need the best people in your life. Sometimes you just need people. You need different perspectives to kind of help you understand the world better, especially when you're like a little kid. Sometimes, unfortunately, this happens to a lot of people. You have terrible parents. Like you're born into just like bad situations, and like even people who don't seem great on paper are probably better than your parents. And this just happens to people, and it's really, really sad. But I'm not gonna say I relate to that. Obviously, that's terrible. But I grew up in a neighborhood where there was a lot of people where I was like, man, I'm so sorry that these are your parents. This is awful. But you're watching this kid who is definitely affected, but he's just this brave kid who's like pushing through, and you're just rooting for him, and it makes you feel emotional. And that's that. That are the 10 anime. Those are the 10 anime that have made me cry. I'm sure there's more. If you want me to talk more about anime in the future, I will do that. I've kind of fallen off for a little bit now, but I want to get back into it because I kind of quit scrolling social media. That's amazing. But I think I actually need to sort of force myself to watch anime and to watch nonfiction, which is weird, but I actually think it's worth it. Like every time I'm in the middle of a new show, I'm like, this is amazing. But the idea of starting something new and like getting into it feels kind of difficult sometimes. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. I upload vlogs to this channel all the time. I'm a children's book author and illustrator, and I was a pro skateboarder for 10 years. So I share my life on this channel. If you're interested in that, stay tuned. Maybe I'll just switch over to talking about anime exclusively if anyone cares about this video. All right, thanks. Bye-bye.